You know the saying that goes like your health is your wealth. So we are going to put your health in focus. Welcome to Health Focus with me, Stella Jejomsogli. Today we are going to talk about a very important subject, a condition that every human being can be is liable to get at any point in their lives. Whether children, young people, old people, everybody can get diabetes. Yes. To help with the discussion today is Farm Mariam Apreku. She is a pharmacist. Hello, Mariam.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining us on
It's
Health
a pleasure.
Focus. So we are talking about diabetes. What is the opposite of diabetes?
Okay, so when we talk about diabetes, we typically mean that there is too much sugar in your blood. That's the
Okay.
layman's point of view. So the opposite is too little sugar in your blood. But then we also know that what we want to achieve as health professionals is having a normal level of sugar in your blood.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. What is a normal level of sugar in your body?
Okay, so when we have something called your fasting blood glucose, that is
Okay.
the amount of sugar you have in your blood when you've not had any meal for at least 12 hours. So you should have it, depending on the meter that you are using to check your sugar level, you should be between 3.5 and 6.5. But
Okay.
some meters might vary, but it should not be too much. It could be maybe 3 to 7, but mostly you find them between 3.5 to 7.5 millimole.
Okay.
Something of that sort.
Okay, so now that we are talking about figures, what figures show that you have diabetes?
Okay, so what we should not deny the fact that sometimes something might happen to your body. So today, let's say you don't feel great, you walk into the pharmacy, you walk into the hospital, and you check your blood sugar level, and you've not eaten the whole morning.
Okay.
Or maybe it's even noon, but you've not eaten, and you go and you check and your sugar level is around 10.
Okay.
Okay, so that means I gave you the values already. We are 3.5 to 6.5. But on a normal day, you've not eaten, you've taken only water. Water is not part. And you go and you are somewhere at 12 or 10. You would think that my blood sugar is high. Do I have diabetes? Technically, that is not enough for us to diagnose you as a diabetic.
Okay.
At that particular moment, your sugar is high. But we do not rely on just one sugar reading to determine that someone is diabetic. Something might have happened, some medications you were taking, anything could make your sugar go high. So if you are going to be diagnosed as a diabetic, what should happen is that a doctor would have to do that for you, to tell you straight. So someone should not come to your house, go by in the neighborhood and be checking blood sugar levels and be diagnosing people as diabetics.
Okay, so on a day that I go to the hospital and I find out that, okay, my sugar levels are above the normal range, what does it mean?
As I said, it could be just because of stress on the body. That can
Okay,
happen.
so I can become fine, like the
It
levels.
can even resolve on its own the next day.
Okay.
But as I said, there the doctor will look at other things, risk factors.
Okay.
The doctor will look at your age. Are you even pregnant? Have you had these issues before? Then the doctor would want to be taking regular checks. And sometimes they will take you through a series of tests. Probably will give you sugar to see how your body will process that sugar, and after some time take another test to see your sugar level. That will give them an idea whether the sugar that you took in, your body was able to process it. That will give them an idea whether you have diabetes or not. So it's quite technical. So I would want to let people know that you don't go somewhere and they give you a figure today and diagnose you as a diabetic. Things would have to happen to be sure you are truly diabetic before that can happen.
Okay, so like I said in my introduction, it looks like diabetes can affect anybody at all. So let's look at the types of diabetes we have and the kinds of people that get which type.
Yeah, so contrary to people thinking that diabetes is the disease for the old, not at all.
Okay.
We basically have 3 types of diabetes. The type 1 diabetes that normally you find in younger people, in fact people of all ages, because that one is somehow a defect in the person that is causing the person's sugar to always be on the high side. So that's the first one, that's the type 1. The type 2 is the one that we all know of, that we always hear of, that our uncles or our grandmas have it. That is the type 2 diabetes, which is also diabetes mellitus. So that one, yeah, it can happen at any age per se, but depends. But usually we find it in older people, people probably above 40, even in the 35s. But from what we are seeing of late, it's creeping into the younger generation. Yes. And we also have the third one, which is called gestational diabetes, diabetes in pregnant women. Yeah. So what happens is that because a woman is pregnant and things happen in their body, and a lot of things happen in a pregnant woman's body. There's a lot of pressure on the tummy. And the place which really handles the organ that handles your insulin production. So you go back to that place and I'll give you the basics there.
Okay.
A pregnant woman has a lot of pressure on the abdomen, and the abdominal area is responsible. There is an organ there that is responsible to regularize your sugar. And because there is a lot of pressure, there's something will happen to the body, and the pregnant woman will develop diabetes. Sadly, sometimes after having a baby, some women do not go back to their original non-diabetic state, and they get stuck there. This could be due to a whole lot of things. So that's also another type. So when you think about diabetes, I would want you to think about two things. You think about glucose and you think about insulin.
Okay.
So that's what you should think. What does insulin do? What the insulin will do is that when I eat maybe a biscuit, that biscuit that I eat will turn into sugar, and it will go into my blood, and then the blood will move through my body, and other parts of my tissues will pick it to use as energy.
Okay.
But how will that sugar that is in my blood get into my tissues? Insulin is like the fuel. Insulin is what is going to help the other parts of your body pick that sugar from your blood. So if you have a problem with your insulin, that means the sugar stays in your blood. It's not able to be picked up into your body to be used as energy. So it just sits in your blood and becomes poisonous, because you just have sugar sitting in your blood and damaging things, but not getting to where they need to be taken to be used as fuel. So that's really that. So just sugar sitting in your blood, and your body cannot use it.
Okay, so there's this thing about when you get diabetes or when you're diagnosed, it's sort of like a life sentence. There's no way you can come out of it, especially for type 1. That you mentioned that as a defect with your insulin. How true is that, and what are some of the, so we are talking about type 1 currently,
Okay.
because that's what people say is sort of
Incurable,
like,
yeah.
yes, a life sentence, because for the other ones, some I've heard testimonies of people who say they've been healed of their diabetes through management and dieting and all of that. So let's talk about type 1.
Okay, so when you talk about real diabetes, I'm going to say real diabetes, not to undermine the third one. The type 1 and type 2 really has no cure.
Okay.
We should get that straight. But the issue is we have people in a pre-diabetic stage. I'm talking about the type 2. So before they get into the real diabetic stage, sometimes you can use a lifestyle changes and it will resolve. But let's go to the type 1. When someone is born with a defect, which the person cannot even produce this insulin I'm talking about. And this is the insulin that is responsible for picking up the sugar from your blood and using it as fuel. So if you can't produce it, definitely, automatically you become a diabetic. And you cannot go into the person's genetic system and change anything there. So that's how come it becomes chronic. So in this situation, we manage it. And the goal here is to make sure that you are keeping your sugar at an acceptable level.
Okay.
Make sure your sugar is always at an acceptable level.
Where acceptable means?
Acceptable means 3.5 to 6.5, sorry. So 3.5 to 6.5. And sometimes you can even jump to 7. The doctor will be saying, oh, no problem, we can manage this. This is not a big deal. But the moment you jump into you move from the 7s and go into the 8s, 9s, and 10s, then we have to move back and say you are not managing your diabetes well. Because someone might be on medication, but it's always recording values when the person is in the fasting mode, that has not eaten in the morning or even the whole day, and it's still recording at 8. That is not acceptable. For the longest time, if your blood sugar level is always around 8, 9, 10, in your fasting mode, that means the time will come, damage is going to be done to your body. So, as I said, type 1 is not incurable. You can only manage it. And the goal is to make sure that your blood sugar level is at an acceptable range. That is the 3.5 to 6.5. It's a range. And you can fall in between any of them. And it's not like you can jump easily from 3 to 4. So it's kind of a little bit wide, a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about type 2.
Yeah. So with the type 2, yes. Okay, so if I have a 40-year-old man coming to the hospital or the pharmacy. First, a man. Men are more prone to diabetes. That's one risk factor.
Okay.
Second, the age is not helping, because this is the reality of life. As you are growing, your body grows weak. The organs in your body grow weak, and these are the organs that control how our body works. So by the time you are 40, excuse me to say, your body starts dying. Okay, so things start degenerating. So that's how come always age is a risk factor for everyone, for any kind of disease. So if a 40-year-old man comes in, already he has ticked 2 risk factors, and this man is obese, has a pot belly, that's also another risk factor. So if this man comes, the first thing the doctor will seek to do is not to just give the person medications. And the doctor also look at the level at which the sugar is always falling. Is it falling somewhere around the 8? That is not too bad. With lifestyle modification, you can push this man back into the normal range.
Okay.
So sometimes when you go, they give you 2 weeks. And if it's at a bad stage, they'll give you medication first to normalize it. And they try with lifestyle modification. But the true fact is, most patients do not accept lifestyle modifications easily. First, especially if the person cannot afford a certain lifestyle change, it will not happen. Someone has lived on kenke for most of his life, and you tell the person to stop eating kenke. Probably that's what the person can afford. You're telling the person to go and buy brown rice, which is quite expensive. It won't work. You tell the person to cut carbohydrates, but this person is obese, has been living on carbohydrates for so long. Unless the patient accepts that I have this issue, I need to change, it might be uncomfortable for me, it might even be expensive for me, but to make sure my life is preserved, I'm going to change my life. Sometimes lifestyle modifications do not help. They do not, patients do not comply with it because it's difficult. And if you or someone goes to the hospital one day and they give them a bunch of medications to start taking every day, it's not easy on the patients.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are in denial, they refuse to take it, and some will tell you, I'm going to do herbal medication. Not say herbal medications are the problem, but as you are taking your herbal medications, are you even checking whether your sugar is decreasing? They don't do that. They live in denial, take herbs, and the next thing they come back in a coma.
Right. At the mention of herbs, let's take this break. When we come back, we'll talk about lifestyle and diet modifications and things that we can do to all stay in shape. Let's take this short break. We'll be right back. We'll be back shortly with Farm Mariam, but before that, let's take a short video of a diabetic who has been dealing with this condition for some time. She tells us how she has been coping so far.
So in 2020, I think in January, I had migraine that lasted for days. So until I'm admitted, the migraine won't go. So as part of the research, one time I went to the hospital and I suggested to them that I think I've tried every method or every medicine that needs to be tested, but I still have a migraine. So I told the doctor that I would want to check my sugar, and I wanted to be sure if my sugar levels were okay. So when I did the first test, the doctor told me that, hey, you are too young, but I think you have high sugar. So go home for 2 weeks, train, eat well, and come back. So I think I didn't go back to the hospital because I was fine. Then I think later in May, I had the same symptoms of this long migraine that wouldn't stop. So I went to the hospital again and I told them that I think I want to check my sugars again. Then when they checked my sugar in the morning, it was very high. And the doctor suggested that I have diabetes. I think initially when I heard it, I was depressed because it meant that I would be on some medication for the rest of my life. So initially they gave me some medication called metformin. I had reactions to it, so I lived in self-denial. So I didn't take the medication, but my condition was worsening. And I went back to the hospital and told them that, see, I accept I'm diabetic now, and I think I don't want the metformin because I react to it. And it is taken, I think, 3 times a day. Then later they actually asked what I was doing and if I could afford a better medication, which was Galvosmet. At the time, Galvosmet was 200 cedis. So I took it twice a day. It was better because it was a tablet each. So I wasn't scared of the situation. And I read a lot about it, and I noticed that if I live a healthy life and I exercise, I'll be better. And I did that, and I was gradually getting better. Interestingly, at the time I was battling with this, my mother was also battling with a similar condition. So I suggested to her that she should also go for a diabetic checkup. And unfortunately, when she went, she was diagnosed of type 2 diabetes, and I am type 1 diabetic. It means that my pancreas is failing to produce insulin that will break down my sugar. So we were both on the Galvosmet, and it was 200 cedis each. So whilst I buy for her because I am basically the breadwinner of the family. That was in 2020. But because I'm a type 1 diabetic, they added an insulin. With the insulin, it means that I have to inject before every meal. But I went to a hospital and told them that I didn't like the fact that I had to take an insulin all the time before I eat. So they recommended a 24-hour insulin. So I use it every 24 hours. And it was 150 at the time. Fast forward in 2023, the Galvosmet I bought for 200 cedis is now 720, and I buy 2 every month. So in a month I buy 7,714, 22. So I buy 1,240 cedis tablets, and the insulin I bought for 120 is now 480, and it lasts for 3 weeks. So every 3 weeks I buy medication about 2,000. Yeah, more than 2,000, because there are days I buy my test kits, which was 150 and is now 340. So in a month I spend like close to 3,000 for my medication. But with my situation, I have an insurance that covers just one of the medications. So if you remove the 720, it means I spend like 2,300 on medication every month. It hasn't been easy because aside everything, there are days I feel I'm deprived of certain things, like eating certain meals. There are certain things I can't do. I am not supposed to do heavy sports. I'm not supposed to eat after certain times. I'm supposed to eat healthy, and healthy food are quite expensive in Ghana. So for instance, if buying rice like this is not healthy for diabetics, but instead of buying rice, I would choose to eat plantain. But there are times I really crave for these things, and in my attempt to, let's say, go against my diet and I eat anything, I end up falling sick. And for my own sake, I try to live healthy. It hasn't been easy because there are times I'm depressed. Sometimes even when you eat the right meals, you wake up and your sugars are high. Then you just don't know what to do. But the worst of all is the pricing of these medications. I don't know. I think government should subsidize these medications, especially for people with diabetes, because it's hard. Imagine working and earning a salary less than 2,000, and you provide medication for yourself and your mother, and they use the dollar because most of the medication, I think every medication I am on is imported. So during the lockdown it was worse because people did not shop these medications. So during the lockdown I had to buy more, and the prices were a bit higher.
Welcome back. This is Health Focus. So we've been talking about diabetes, and I'm back with Farm Mariam. Before we went on that break, we were talking about herbal medicines and how people don't keep track of their sugars and the lifestyle modifications that they are given. But before someone will get diabetes, what are some of the things that can lead to it? So let's talk about causes.
Okay, so causes of diabetes. One thing, like I said, we talked about the age factor. One thing we can also not ignore is the fact that it can have a hereditary component to it.
Okay.
Type 1 or type 2. Because if you have someone in your family, your immediate family, especially your father, your mom, your grandmother, or even your sister having diabetes, sometimes the doctors, those are the first questions they have. If you have a genetic predisposition, that can, it's a risk factor. So that means you should be careful.
Yeah.
Probability that means there is a gene in your family that runs in your family that makes you prone to get diabetes.
Okay.
So you have to be careful. But one of the main causes you cannot also ignore is obesity. Okay, so when someone is obese, that means their weight to their height ratio is quite high. But you ask me, there are people with a lot of weight sometimes who do not have diabetes. Because we have healthy weight and we have unhealthy weight. So if you are not eating well, remember whatever you put in your body, that's the building blocks of your body. And that's the same thing that's going to build every tissue or single organ in your body. So if your building blocks are not good, that means it will not work the way you expect it to work. It's like using fake spare parts in your car. It's not going to run for long. So if you are not taking care of yourself in terms of eating well and eating healthy, eating good food. So someone will be eating junk and putting on weight, but someone might eat whole food, good whole food with probably their family, they might be big, but they might be healthy. So yes, but we should also not ignore the fact that the mere fact that sometimes you have a big belly can cause you to have insulin issues. So that can also cause diabetes. So yeah, you might have a little bit of weight, but is it healthy weight? Do you have a lot of weight in your midsection? That is very important. So that's also one of the, so sometimes you don't per se causes, but these are the risk factors. Things that, because someone might live all the years of their life to the 80s and might not contract diabetes.
Yes.
But the person might even have a little bit of weight. Because ideally, if everything is working perfectly in your body, you are not supposed to have diabetes. But when something goes wrong, you are not producing enough insulin. Even you are not even producing at all. And even sometimes some people produce it, but their body do not respond to it. What is causing that? That's the issue. So if everything works perfectly, why not? But
Okay.
as we grow, it becomes a problem.
Well, before the official conversation we're having right now, we're having an unofficial one, and you were making the point that sometimes diabetes is not detected early, and it is only detected when the person presents with crisis or something happens.
Yeah.
So all the times that the person had not presented with any symptoms or whatever and has not gone to the hospital to be diagnosed, what are some of the things that someone can know or immediately identify about themselves to know that, okay, I should go check?
Okay, so one classical symptoms of diabetes is something that we call polyphagia. That is, you have a very big appetite. You drink lots of water.
Okay.
You pee a lot. That's one of the earlier symptoms. Because what is happening that you are eating, the fuel is in your body, but your body cannot use it. So your brain is telling you that I'm hungry, I'm hungry. So you keep eating, you keep eating. And you drink lots of water and you pee a lot. So it's just a whole mechanism that your body is not working the way it's supposed to. Because if I eat, my body is supposed to tell me, oh, you are full because I have enough fuel.
It's okay.
No. But the sugar sits in your system, sits in your blood, doesn't go and do its work. And your brain thinks that your body is still hungry, so you still eat. So you are eating, but you are still hungry. That's one of the main things. And as it goes, some people might think this is not a big deal. Some people really have a lifestyle that their mind might not come to that point a lot. But it gets to a point where damage starts happening to your body.
Okay.
So someone can have a high sugar level for as long as 2-3 years and you don't see anything. Then one day the person feels a little bit dizzy. The person will start losing weight now. Or the person feels some tingling on the hands or the legs. Or the person feels some heat on the legs. Then sometimes some people don't see well anymore. Their vision starts diminishing. What is now happening is that you are having nerve damage, because when there is so much sugar in your blood, it starts damaging your nerves. And remember, all these things that I mentioned, your eyes, your legs, they are very sensitive nerves, and there are nerve endings there. So when they start getting damaged, that's when you realize that there is something wrong with me. Now I'm saying, if I'm sitting there, she fine, they are
Yes,
sitting
very
there,
fine.
Minaya 80 treaty, something of that sort, and they will come. They are worried. Oh, I'm having numbness. I'm having numbness. I'm having numbness, and I have this, so it seems not to go away.
Okay.
That's when, and sometimes they will have no sort of crisis, but these simple symptoms. And now they will go and the doctor will take tests and they will realize it. But some people are not so lucky. These symptoms might not pop up. One day they are just there, they feel dizzy and they just collapse. You take them to the hospital and their sugar level is so high. Because what has happened is that the body has starved, the brain has starved, and the body will just shut down because the body cannot take any fuel. It's not getting any fuel, so you just collapse. And that's what happens. So that is when it becomes a crisis. Yeah. So when some people see the earlier onset, that is the too much eating, they don't really care much for it.
Okay.
They don't.
How much is too much eating?
Yeah, because you know how you are eating. Okay, so this is how it is.
And
Trust
even water.
Me, you
because
know.
We've been told that you have to drink 8.
Okay. Yeah, so if you are taking 8 liters of water and you are peeing almost every hour, that's normal.
That's normal.
Yes, that's quite normal. Yeah. But then again, me, for instance, I'm someone who doesn't take lots of water. I always have to remind myself to take water. So I wake up in the morning, of course, maybe I visit the toilet, I pee. I've not even taken water till 12 o'clock and I've already peed 4 times. That draws your attention. I've not even drank water and my body is always draining itself of water. So because there is so much sugar in your blood that it's drawing water from your own system into the blood by osmosis. This is the science people know, so it just draws it into it and you pee a lot. So that's the mechanism there. So you trust me, you will know, unless you don't pay attention to your body. Everyone is supposed to pay attention to your body. If one day you are warm, you should know you are warm. If one day you wake up tired, you should know you are tired. If you know you are sick, you wake up, you have a sick feeling.
Yes.
Sometimes you don't have a temperature, sometimes you don't have any headache, but you have a feeling of sickness. But the issue is people, especially young people of today, they don't take care of themselves. Even when they are sick, they pretend they are not sick. They get up, pick their bag, and pretend it's not happening, and go hustle.
The road running.
Yes, but in the end, remember, if you have nobody to work with, if you don't have this body working with you, you have nothing, trust me.
Now that we've established that, can we talk about the medications that you can use to manage? Because you said it's not curable.
Yes, for the type 1, like I said, it's not curable. This is a situation where sometimes someone is not producing insulin. So in this situation, you have to have artificial insulin injected into your body every time to make sure your sugar levels are perfect. Yes. So that one is there. And I don't want us to be so technical on the type 1 because usually we call it insulin dependent diabetes anyway, because that one is a matter of insulin. But when you come to the type 2, the diabetes type 2, the mellitus, you realize that it's not always dependent on insulin. Sometimes the person is not even producing enough. Sometimes the person is producing, but the body is not responding. And sometimes it's just that there is so much pressure on the pancreas. Remember, the pancreas is the organ that produces insulin. If there is an issue with the pancreas, insulin production will be affected. So yes, sometimes we give them medication. And some of these medications, as soon as there is too much sugar in your blood, it will take it off. Sometimes even prevents the sugar from being produced and put in your blood so that your body can take its time and fix itself. So in this situation, people who have diabetes, they know their medication, and sometimes you wouldn't want to say it on a platform like this because the next moment they go to the pharmacy and they start buying them
for it.
But you have to be very careful with your diabetic medication, because if you are not taking it well, you have a situation where you go to the opposite of diabetes, that is the hypoglycemia. And when you are hypoglycemic, your brain can shut down. That one is dangerous, more dangerous than even having high. Because when it's at a high level, you can manage to bring it down. But when you are so hypoglycemic, you are not taking your medication well, and you are not. Some people take their medication and not eat, and it will put their body in a low glycemic level, and their body will shut down, and they might never wake up. Wow. So those are the things. So with the medications, those who have diabetes, they know. But what you would have to ask your doctor is, maybe, do I need to take this before I eat? Some are taking before you eat, because it has to be in your body waiting for the sugar to come to handle it. Or some you have to take it after you've eaten. And some of them, you can't combine it with other medications. These are the little things you should ask your doctor. And we realize that some people go to the hospitals and they can't speak to their doctors. I don't know whether they are shy or they get intimidated with the doctor thing. But you really need
sometimes
to ask.
some doctors are very hostile and
Well,
mean.
when you go into a normal facilities with one doctor sitting there with 100 patients behind him, it's kind of stressful.
But I don't know that you are stressed. I've come with
so
a peculiar
the good thing
issue.
is, when the doctor, you are giving your medications, go see the pharmacist. You have community pharmacies. Yeah. Go into the pharmacist, talk to your pharmacist.
Dragnet is also there.
Exactly. You
pharmacist.
You just call them. Yeah. I have this medication. What are the side effects? Because sometimes if you tell a patient the side effects of their medications beforehand, before they take it, and they are aware, they know what to expect. Yes. But some people, when you give them anti-diabetic medications, let me give you an example. Like a 40-year-old man, like I said, will take his diabetes medication home, takes it and realize that his libido goes down. His sexual appetite goes down. He's not having a strong erection like he used to. He will stop taking the medications. He will dump them.
But it will still have an effect on him, right? Because
in the long run, it will.
Diabetes has an effect on sexual drive.
Of course. But sometimes the medication, especially some of the hypertensive medications, will also give that additional effect. And they dump their medications. They don't want to even deal with it. So sometimes if you let them know, maybe if you take this might happen, but it's just for like a few days, a few months, it will resolve. So just stick to it. If they know beforehand, if not, they are not comfortable with it, they will have to come back so that you change it for them. There are hundreds of anti-diabetic medications.
Okay, so I know that you mentioned something about sex drive. Just to digress a bit. If as a normal person your sex drive in a moment or in a split second, like in a few days, in a month's time, you realize your libido has gone down, should you be alarmed that I may be having a sugar problem? But over time,
if it's an overtime thing, you would want to find out. I wouldn't go straight to blaming diabetes. Sometimes what happens is that before diabetes will actually affect your sex drive, then it has already started damaging your nerves. That's the issue. So some men will come for a regular checkup and their sugar is high. And you give them normal diabetes medication, it's going to affect their sex drive. And that's where the issue pops up.
Okay, so when you are diabetic, you are taking diabetes medicines. What sort of medications or things are you supposed to avoid entirely?
Okay, so there is one myth that you avoid sugar when you are diabetic. That is not entirely true. Because the idea is, if you take sugar, you are diabetic and you take sugar, it's a no-no. Not entirely true. Not to say that you should go and take sugar. But what I'm trying to tell you that if you eat rice, it turns into sugar in the end. So if you're avoiding sugar and you're eating lots of yams and lots of rice, white rice, you are still ending up at that diabetic stage. So diabetes is not equal to sugar. Typical to say white sugar or sugary drinks. No, it's not about that. The idea is to cut off carbohydrates sometimes to a lower level so that you will not have too much sugar in your blood. Because remember, most of these carbohydrates turn into sugar as the end product in your blood. So the thing is, avoid sugar when you are diabetic, of course, but there are other things you can avoid, like white rice, like yams, like flour. Flour is one of the culprits. Bread, anything with flour, the cakes and the chips, yes, those are the culprits there. So it's not always about the
But as
sugar.
young people, those are the things we like.
Like I said,
Pizza,
if you are young, your body is great.
sandwich,
If you are young, your body is great.
chicken wraps,
Oh God, they fine. Your body is great at that
ice
point.
cream, and all of that.
Yeah, you can process it all and you put it, but how at what amount are you taking these things?
Okay.
Because the moment you are taking this every day, you are taking wraps every day. Well, sometimes you say we've wrapped them in lettuce, but come on, the wrapping itself is full of carbs. And if you are taking so much bread, and if you are taking so much pizza every day, then at a point in time, these are the building blocks of your 40-year-old body. Know that what you are eating in 20 is going to be your 60-year-old body. Think about that. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about final one, exercise.
Yes. So exercise is an issue. Okay. We have to be very, how many times do you see people actually walking around exercising? Nowadays, I see a lot of older people doing it, which is great. The young people go into the gyms. But how many people can afford a gym membership? I don't think my mom has ever exercised before because my mom, I don't think so. She works hard, she does her work. So it's kind of a good form of exercise. But a point will come where your exercise becomes a stress. So don't tell me because you sell by the roadside, you are having a lot of exercise. Maybe you're exercising your body a lot. But at a point, if it becomes, you are doing it all day, it doesn't become exercise no more. It becomes stress. And that can actually cause your body to break down. Diabetes can follow. So the exercises should be very, very deliberate. You have to know, you have to tone your body, you tone your core. Make sure that you are not piling fat in the midsection. That's the main idea here. Piling fat, that's the issue. So if you are exercising, the idea is to make sure that your body is like in action all the time. You are not living a sedentary lifestyle where you are sitting in the office all day, go in the morning, sit there all day, and the night to pick up your bag, go home and sleep. Your body is not fit then. You have to have some form of exercise. So it should be very, very deliberate.
Thank you very much, Fam Mariam, for doing today's conversation with us. My name is Stella J. Sugli, and this has been Health Focus. See you again some other time.